썰리고 짓누르고 태워지고. 넌 앞으로 12번 죽게 된다. 그리고 어떤 몸으로 깨어나도
준다. 어쩜 이건 기회일지도 몰라.
대신 그자의 몸으로 죽음을
이대로 죽을 순 없다.
In the dark and scary room, Yee-Jae knelt and cried, pretending that he didn't deserve this because he didn't do anything wrong. A mysterious woman suddenly shoots Yee-Jae and throws him off the plane, but even with a hole in his forehead, Yee-Jae still opens his eyes. It all started 7 years ago. Yee-Jae was going for an interview at a very prestigious company when suddenly a man crossed a busy road and was hit by a car. Yee-Jae checks on the guy, but he dies clinging to Yee-Jae's arm, making him shake so much. Later in the interview, Yee-Jae is still going through her trauma and can't answer anything properly, so she doesn't get the job. Unable to find a job, Yee-Jae graduated with large student debt, so he had to start looking for menial jobs such as delivery and waiter. His family cannot help him because his father has passed away and his mother is a janitor who sacrificed a lot to give him a good education. Yee-Jae kept sending resumes to many different companies, but he continuously couldn't find a full-time job. After 7 years of working part-time, Yee-Jae finally gets an interview at a big company. Interviewer Tae-Yu is impressed with his resume and Yee-Jae leaves the meeting full of hope. However, he soon received a call from a friend who informed him that all the money they invested in another friend's contract was gone because this guy had disappeared. Yee-Jae ran to his friend's apartment and started knocking on the door, but no one answered. Since it was all his savings, Yee-Jae became angry and started banging on the door with a fire extinguisher until he fell to his knees and collapsed. Moments later, he went to the police station for destruction of property, so Yee-Jae asked the police to arrest his friend. But there's nothing they can do because investing in a bankrupt company is not illegal. In the evening, Yee-Jae goes to meet his girlfriend Jisoo, who gets out of the car with a guy who gives her flowers. When the man leaves, Yee-Jae approaches her. She immediately realizes that he has been drinking. She said that he didn't find much work this month and gave him an envelope, but he took it as charity and realized that he was just a burden. Thinking that their relationship is going nowhere, Yee-Jae breaks up with her. Moments later, Yee-Jae goes to his apartment and discovers that the landlord has kicked him out and is keeping the security deposit to cover the overdue rent. All of Yee-Jae's belongings were left out in the rain, so he had to move as many belongings as possible to protect them. Unfortunately, there wasn't much room and by morning he had lost a lot of his belongings. After a night of sleeping on the floor, Yee-Jae receives a text message from the company informing him that he failed the interview. After another breakdown, Yee-Jae decides she's had enough and disappears into the middle of the city, ignoring his mother's calls. Darkness covers for a few seconds, and then Yee-Jae discovers he is on a private plane. When he looked at his reflection, he was frightened because his face had changed, and at that moment he recognized the mysterious woman sitting nearby. She was holding a farewell letter in her hand, but she magically burned it before taking off her sunglasses, revealing her glowing red eyes. Suddenly, Yee-Jae was taken to a horrifying room with a high tower in the middle of the Red Sea and demons trying to climb it. The woman reveals that she is Death and that she brought him here to punish him for mocking her. She grabbed him by the neck and threw him into the sea, so the monsters tried to catch him as he fell. Many creatures are waiting for him underwater, but when he crashes, he wakes up on the plane with his face intact. Death is also there and explains that he will make Yee-Jae die 12 more times as punishment. His soul will enter the bodies of 12 people facing imminent death, and he will die wherever he goes. However, if he escapes death, he will be able to retain this life. Yee-Jae did not care about these deaths because he wanted to end them all, but after the deaths disappeared, the plane entered a fierce storm. Unconsciously frightened, Yee-Jae put on a life jacket and buckled his seatbelt when the flight attendant came to tell him it was just turbulence. After a few minutes of shaking, the plane stabilized and the flight attendant left Yee-Jae alone. Still confused, Yee-Jae starts looking around and realizes that he is in the body of a very rich person. Suddenly, a glowing pebble entered his mind, informing him of details about the person he possessed. This guy is the CEO of the big company that Yee-Jae applied for, and he has been rich his whole life. Tae-Yu is his older brother, and they have competed since childhood about everything, including who should run the company. All his hard work helped him gain his father's approval, and he was eventually chosen to become the new CEO. Yee-Jae is very satisfied with this lifestyle and decides to keep it, but at that moment an engine explodes. The plane begins to land at high speed and Yee-Jae has to dodge all the sliding furniture before returning to his seat to fasten his seatbelt. The pilot tried to control the plane, but to no avail and the fire spread, creating a hole in the side of the plane that sucked in the pilot and flight attendant. Yee-Jae could only watch as an explosion caused the entire plane to catch fire and he was soon burned to death. Yee-Jae then wakes up in a dark room, which is now a sterile area with a creepy glowing door and a desk for the Grim Reaper. On this table, a clock counts down Yee-Jae's remaining lives. As death loads a bunch of bullets into the gun, he explains a few things. The souls of these bodies are dead, so Yee-Jae didn't take their lives. He just gave these bodies a chance second meeting. If he doesn't survive all of them, he will go to hell, and Death decides to give him a taste. She grabs Yee-Jae and takes him behind the door, where he sees unspeakable horror. When Death eliminated him, Yee-Jae collapsed and went back to the beginning. He doesn't understand what he did to deserve going to hell, so Death says it's his fault for finding her before she could find him. She also reveals that depending on his actions, if he survives in one of the 12 bodies, he can avoid going to hell. Yee-Jae decides he will finally try to survive, and Death shoots him to send him to a second life. He finds himself falling from a plane in his new body wearing a tracksuit but without a parachute. When he panicked, he saw 3 other men jumping after him and carrying cameras. A man grabbed him to help him, and at that moment the glowing pebble entered his mind. This body belongs to an adrenaline junkie who loves extreme sports and has completed many crazy challenges, earning him 4 Guinness World Records. Today, he took on a challenge that involved diving thousands of miles above sea level without a parachute to land on a safety net. The event is broadcast on national television, and if he succeeds, the sponsor will give him $3 billion in cash. The sponsor's souvenir has a picture of a guy playing with a lighter. The idea of such money makes Yee-Jae want to take on the challenge, so he pushes the assistant away and begins to fall at high speed. The body lost its original soul but retained its abilities, so Yee-Jae felt confident and even excited. When he finally reached his destination, he missed the net and fell to the ground, dying instantly. Yee-Jae reappears in the dark room, saying it's unfair to be considered a sinner because he didn't hurt anyone by killing himself. Death calls him selfish because he cannot say that he hurts others and shoots him to send him to the third life. Soon, he wakes up in the body of a teenager at school and notices a classmate laughing at a video of the paratrooper's death. This tells Yee-Jae that all these lives belong to the same reality. He was about to beat him for this, but at that moment the glowing pebble appeared in his mind. The teenager lost his father when he was 5 years old and was raised by his single mother, who worked hard to provide for him. The boy wants to make her proud but hates going to school because Jin-sang and his friends constantly harass him with violence, theft, or stupid jokes like throwing milk at him while recording. However, he never told his mother this so as not to worry her. In the end, the boy felt like the school had become hell and his tormentors were demons, so he decided to erase himself. Yee-Jae realizes that all he needs to survive is to choose not to commit suicide. At that moment, Jin-sang approached him and reminded him to get him some milk before hitting him. Yee-Jae refuses to be a victim and chases him down and knocks him down with a chair. One of Jin-sang's friends tries to stop him, but Yee-Jae quickly overpowers him before pushing Jin-sang against the window and demanding that he apologize. Suddenly, someone knocked Yee-Jae down. It was Tae-suk, a very strong teenager who immediately dominated and beat him. Then, he and his friends hold Yee-Jae down so Jin-sang can hit him too while his classmates look on in fear. At that moment, the teacher arrived so everyone went home, but after school, Jin-sang and his gang caught Yee-Jae to beat him again. In the end, even Tae-suk thought it was too much and asked Jin-sang to stop, but he didn't care and continued. However, he finally stopped when he saw the girl he liked looking at them. Later, Yee-Jae goes to the boy's house and is moved to see photos and notes from the boy's mother, reminding him of himself. His mother often cooks dinner for him and then goes to work, which makes her very tired, so sometimes Yee-Jae comes to help her. When the boy's mother also comes home, she notices her son has better manners and Yee-Jae almost cries remembering his mother. The next day, Yee-Jae comes to Tae-suk in the bathroom to ask why he let Jin-sang order him around if he is stronger, so Tae-suk explains that the real boss of the school is a senior student in group Jin-chan belong to. If they bother Jin-sang, the older children will destroy them. Then at lunchtime, Jin-sang hits Yee-Jae again, so Yee-Jae retaliates by throwing his bowl of noodles at Jin-sang's head. When Yee-Jae leaves, Jin-sang orders Tae-suk to chase him, but Tae-suk refuses because he wants lunch. He tells Jin-sang to go wash up and everyone laughs while a flashback reveals that Yee-Jae told Tae-suk not to interfere because he had a plan. A humiliated Jin-sang turns to his seniors for help and the group quickly goes to the classroom ready to fight. However, when the leader saw that Jin-sang wanted him to beat a weakling, the leader became angry and called Jin-sang a coward for not being able to handle a young boy. He doesn't want his gang to associate with cowards, so he grabs Jin-sang and tells him to never approach them again. Proud of himself, Yee-Jae taunts Jin-sang for his loss, and when Jin-sang tries to hit him, Tae-suk hits him first. Now no one at school respects Jin-sang, and when he rushes out of class, he discovers that the girl he likes is with the upper management. In the evening, Yee-Jae jogged and was almost hit by a truck, but luckily the driver stopped in time. Distracted by this, Yee-Jae does not hear Jin-sang approach him from behind and hits him with a brick, causing him to fall, then continues to beat him to death. Yee-Jae reappears in the dark room and screams at Death, causing her to throw him against the wall before stepping on his face and shooting him again. In his fourth life, Yee-Jae woke up in the body of an interrogated hostage. A group of dangerous men threw water in his face and asked him where he hid the girl and the money. When he didn't answer, they threatened to stab him in the eye, so he announced he would talk. However, his memories had not returned, so when he asked for a moment, the men threatened him with a hammer. Luckily, the glowing rock finally appears and Yee-Jae learns that the body belongs to a criminal organization with clients all over the world. They work as fixers, meaning they will solve their customers' problems by any means necessary, including murder. One day, he falls in love with his boss's girlfriend, and when she tells him about wanting to escape this life of crime and abuse, he suggests they run away together. He stole $10 billion from his boss and hid it in a safe place, but on the way to meet the lady, he was arrested by his colleagues. Realizing he has this guy's incredible abilities, Yee-Jae starts fighting everyone, using the chair as a weapon until it breaks. When he dodged a knife, he caused a man to stab his partner, but after the initial shock, he continued to fight. There were weapons and tools on the wall, so he turned off the main light and took a flashlight to give him an advantage in combat. A fierce battle in the dark ensues, and one by one, Yee-Jae kills all the agents. Then Yee-Jae thought that with this guy's abilities, he could survive anything, so he should take the money and run away. He took his phone and stole a motorcycle to escape, discovering everything was going on in the back of a truck. As Yee-Jae speeds through town, his boss learns that his men have failed and tracks Yee-Jae's location with his cell phone. This location was then sent to all hunters in the area, promising them a lucrative reward if they captured Yee-Jae. Soon, a chase begins on the town's bridge and the police open fire on Yee-Jae, who avoids everything and hides behind a truck. When he managed to appear behind a police car, he used his bike to disarm a guy, after which he started driving like crazy. The remaining boxer missed and crashed into a car, causing multiple accidents. The truck that captured him also appears and tries to block the bridge, but after leaving the bridge, a group of motorcycles and police cars also chased. As he was about to reach a dangerous avenue, Yee-Jae accelerated and caused several vehicles to collide, blocking the path of the police and some motorcycles. There are still a few bikers following him and many enemy vehicles are blocking the way, so Yee-Jae enters a shopping mall and speeds off until he's in the center surrounded by enemies. Just then he noticed there was an elevator, so he went in and closed the door just before another bike could hit him. Once he reached the roof, he took a giant leap and landed in a party pool, where his phone no longer worked. Now the enemy can no longer follow him. Yee-Jae then goes to meet the woman on the dock. She immediately hugged him and Yee-Jae felt how much he loved her. Yee-Jae tells her where the money is so they can get there, but is suddenly shot down by her, revealing that it was her plan all along. Once again, Yee-Jae woke up in a dark room and saw death laughing at him. However, he didn't mind because he hadn't told the woman the exact location of the money yet, so he planned to get it back in his next life. When the Grim Reaper shot him, Yee-Jae's fifth life began in prison. He was in a small cell and couldn't help but panic, but luckily a guard came to take him back to his real cell. On the way, other prisoners threw balls at the fence as a threat and even looked at him fearfully. In his cell, he discovered that he had a cellmate and learned that he would be released in 4 days. He also learns that a psychopathic killer is in the cell with them, and Yee-Jae notices all the macabre artwork and books about psychoanalysis on the shelves. Just then, the psychopath killer is brought back and Yee-Jae is shocked to find out it is Ginseng. Remembering his previous death, Yee-Jae begins to beat him, but the other prisoners immediately pull him away. At that moment, the shiny rock finally came to mind and Yee-Jae knew that this body belonged to an MMA fighter. The guy's family was in trouble with a gang and needed money urgently, so they made a deal. He accepted responsibility for a hit-and-run accident and would be awarded $200 million after the trial. When he was 18 years old, he was still a minor in Korea, so he planned to be released quickly after probation. As they made a deal with the lawyer, a man watched from the shadows while playing with a lighter. The man turned himself in with a false confession, but unfortunately during the trial, the woman who was beaten died, so the judge sentenced him to 2 years in prison for manslaughter. Later, when the lawyer visited him in prison, the guy demanded $2 billion to keep quiet, otherwise he would tell everything to the police. Another memory shows Yee-Jae when Ginseng arrived and how he said a series of scary but stupid things like he was pretending to be a psychopath to scare others and keep control. Back in the present, Yee-Jae starts laughing when he realizes Ginseng isn't a psychopath. He's here because he killed high school students. Yee-Jae starts slapping Ginseng when he calls him out in front of the others, telling them the truth. Ginseng was too scared to deny it and the remaining inmates beat him in revenge. As they spend time in the yard, other prisoners also start to bother Ginseng, which Yee-Jae feels very pleased. The group then attends a carpentry class and a prisoner fires his saw blade at Yee-Jae, who dodges in time. Finally, the blade bounced off the wall and killed another guy. Yee-Jae screams for help and after the guards take the injured man away, all the other prisoners grab tools while telling Yee-Jae that the lawyer wants him dead. Ji-young immediately jumped in, scared before a fight broke out and Yee-Jae took advantage of his body's incredible MMA fighting skills. Using quick and precise strikes, he fights all the prisoners at once, taking them out one by one with a combination of punches, kicks, and using any object in the room. Just then, Ji-young returns with a crowbar and Yee-Jae realizes that he wants to help him, so he decides to befriend him. That night, Yee-Jae finds Ginseng sharpening the tool to kill him in the bathroom. After beating him, Yee-Jae considers killing him first, but that would get him more jail time. Instead, he decides to hurt Jin-sang by saying he sees the dead student's ghost, sharing details about his past life that only he knows. When he said that the ghost would haunt him forever, Jin-sang ended up peeing his pants in fear. Finally, the day of Yee-Jae's release comes, and before leaving, he gives milk to Jin-sang and says he was sent by the ghost. Outside, the lawyer waits for him to give him the money, but Yee-Jae refuses, telling him that from now on he wants to live a clean life. Sometime later, he went to the dock and found the money he had hidden in his previous life, unaware that someone was following him. Now that he was ready to start his new life, he rented a room and took a nap. He woke up when he felt his mother touching his face, but it turned out to be just a dream. Just then, his phone rings with a call from the body's mother, so a crying Yee-Jae agrees to visit her soon. Later at the station, Yee-Jae divides the money into 2 bags and puts one in a locker, which will be confiscated if not returned after 4 days. Upon returning to his hometown, Yee-Jae is attacked from behind and stabbed by an old man who turns out to be the father of the hit-and-run victim. He was angry that the murderer could only get away with it after 2 years due to his age, so he came looking for revenge. Yee-Jae apologizes and tells him he didn't do it, but soon they hear footsteps and the man runs away. Suddenly, Ji-young appeared and ran to help him, but suddenly pulled out a knife. On the day of the fight, he went out to get a gun to kill Yee-Jae to get the reward money from the lawyer, but when he came back it was all over, so he pretended to be a nice guy. Yee-Jae tries to buy it, but Ji-young doesn't believe he has the money and stabs him repeatedly. Soon, Yee-Jae passed away when the phone rang with a call from his mother. Once again, Yee-Jae woke up in a dark room and only exchanged a few words with death before being shot again. To his horror, he discovered that his 6th life began when he was a baby. He started crying in the middle of the restaurant, so the mother apologized to everyone and took him to her car. There, she shows her true nature, flies into a rage, and scolds the baby for bothering her. Because he was in an infant's body with no memory, the glowing pebble never arrived. The mother took the baby home and calmly threw him on the chair, where the father gently picked him up. Yee-Jae thought that the man could be nicer, but soon he also revealed his true nature. He brought expired food, and when Yee-Jae refused to eat it, he started screaming and insulting. At that time, a police officer arrived accompanied by a social worker who had received a report of a potential case of abuse. They entered and tried to examine the baby's body, but the father stopped them to show them his business card, indicating that he was also a child welfare social worker. The duo apologized for the misunderstanding and left, at which point the angry mother threw the baby on the floor and killed him with a pillow. When he appears in the dark room, Death explains that sometimes even children are unlucky, so Yee-Jae should not take life for granted, and then she shoots him. Yee-Jae's 7th life begins outside the train station, and while using the phone in his pocket, he notices his locker is about to expire. He rushed through the station past a group of people and reached the lockers just before the staff opened them. After getting his money back, Yee-Jae sees his reflection and discovers that his new face is in the station's advertisement. The glowing pebble touched his mind, and he knew that he had been in the body of a famous model since high school. His modeling career became easy because of his looks, and now he makes a lot of money because of it. Excited, Yee-Jae arrives at his new home and discovers that it is extremely luxurious, so he can't wait to keep this life. He also finds a diary and learns that the baby's parents have been arrested for murder. The death of an MMA fighter and road accidents caused by bike chases were also reported, but no one knew what caused them. Then, he receives a call from a friend inviting him to a VIP party, and Yee-Jae decides to join him. He drank a lot because it was his habit, but the model's body was light and he ended up drunker than expected. During the party, he is surprised to see Tae-yu, now the CEO after his brother's death. The next morning, Yee-Jae fell asleep because he was drunk, so his brother in this life had to wake him up. The guy is going to America for a week and the model promised to take care of his coffee, so now Yee-Jae has something new to do. On his first day at work, Yee-Jae planned to close the cafe after his brother left. However, he was shocked when he saw Jisoo enter. With a surprised look, Yee-Jae recalls all the special moments together and the day they met, which happened when the wind blew away Jisoo's papers and Yee-Jae found them. Yee-Jae was so nervous giving orders to Jisoo that his hands shook. His brother explains that she comes to work every day and stays until closing time, and that she is also a published author. Curious, Yee-Jae searches her name online and discovers that she won a writing contest and received a publishing contract. When receiving the award, she thanked her boyfriend for always believing in her. The envelope she tried to show him that day was not regret money but his reward. Feeling guilty, Yee-Jae runs to the bookstore to buy Jisoo's book because he remembers her saying that she put personal experiences into her story. While reading the novel, he discovered that many of the story's beats corresponded to their time together, such as the day he was jealous of his coworker and they said "I love you." While crying, Yee-Jae also saw that the bookstore was selling the fancy pen he promised to give her one day. He secretly bought a pen and engraved his name on it, but it was lost while moving all his belongings in the rain. Later at the cafe, the guy holding flowers he saw the other day arrives with a woman and a little girl who calls Jisoo aunt. Feeling like a fool, Yee-Jae realizes it's Jisoo's brother and decides to open a cafe all week just for her. The next day, Yee-Jae takes Jisoo's order with less anxiety and gives her the cake to take home, saying that he is a fan of her book. He also claims to have an idea for a story, telling him about Lady Death and all the lives he has lived as if it were happening to the character. Yee-Jae then asks her to sign her book and is shocked to see the pen engraved on it. It turns out that his mother collected all of his belongings after his death and gave the pen to Jisoo after the funeral. Over the next few days, Jisoo continues to come to the cafe and Yee-Jae sits with her and chats for a while. One evening, Jisoo wonders why the story's protagonist hasn't visited his mother yet and Yee-Jae says that it would be too painful. Immediately after leaving, Yee-Jae sees a police car passing by and is told by a customer that a patron has had an accident. Assuming the worst, Yee-Jae ran into the street and screamed when he saw blood on the road, so the police had to arrest him. Just then, Yee-Jae sees Jisoo in the crowd and calms down. Jisoo approaches him to thank him for caring so much and shares that she felt the same way when she received the call about her boyfriend's death, that she broke down at the hospital's reception desk. Institute. The next day, Jisoo visits Yee-Jae's resting place and cries, saying she misses him, seen by Yee-Jae from afar. After leaving, Yee-Jae dares to approach her own memorial but unexpectedly meets her mother. Pretending to be there for someone else, Yee-Jae leaves the room, not daring to talk to him. He looked at her from afar and saw her cleaning up the memorial before running to the bathroom to cry her eyes out. Unable to bear it, Yee-Jae ran out and collapsed. Later, Yee-Jae writes a letter to her mother pretending to be a friend, saying that Yee-Jae left money for her mother after she passed away. He returned to his old home and left behind a letter and a bag of money from his previous life, quickly running away after seeing old photos of himself. On the street, a sign suddenly falls off its hinges and falls on Yee-Jae, killing him instantly, but it turns out to be just a dream. The next day, after an afternoon of talking with Jisoo, Yee-Jae offers to walk her home, remembering the times they walked hand in hand. Filled with emotions, Yee-Jae finally confesses the whole truth to him as several flashbacks show that Jisoo's office colleagues would mock her for dating a waiter. However, Jisoo will proudly introduce Yee-Jae to them, not letting them insult their relationship. Yee-Jae apologizes to Jisoo for leaving her, but before she can react, they are suddenly hit by a luxury car. Jisoo dies instantly, but Yee-Jae is still alive and sees the driver's face is Tae-Yu. Yee-Jae realizes that he is the one holding the lighter and that he is connected to all the lives he has lived. The lawyer was also in the car, but he ran away when he saw the bodies, and when Tae-Yu saw that Yee-Jae was still alive, he put on gloves to finish him off. Soon, Yee-Jae woke up in a dark room and was so angry that he rushed over and grabbed Death's gun and shot him in the head. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.